Hey everyone, hope you're doing good. So today I'm going to be making banana bread, and I thought that I would go ahead and share this recipe with you. So it's really easy, and I've been using this recipe for several years now, and I definitely stand by it. I have no idea where it came from. It was just a random Pinterest post, I'm sure, but I could not find it. But anyway, so the first thing that we are going to do is preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so our recipe here is going to call for 3 ripe bananas. This is going to be like smallish medium bananas. If you have large bananas, I would recommend using like 2. So we're just going to peel and mash these up, but you don't want to over mash it. If you can tell, it's still somewhat chunky, but mostly mashed up. Next, we're going to add in 1 egg. Try to keep eggshells out. And then this next thing for our wet ingredients is going to be a 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. Now this might be where I lose some people, but it's definitely a good addition. This is going to cover the oils in here, so you're not going to have to add in any butter or oil to this recipe. And it also makes it super moist. It's like the same thing as using Greek yogurt or sour cream in some of your dishes. All right, so now I've got the 1/2 cup of mayonnaise in there. I'm going to add, it calls for a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, but you can just measure with your heart on this one. All right, now I'm just going to combine all of the wet ingredients. Your mixture should look something like this. And now we're going to add in our dry ingredients. First up is 3/4 cups of brown sugar. And then I just like to go ahead and mix in the sugar and kind of cream it together a little bit. And now we're going to add in 1 1/2 cups of flour. And I'm using all-purpose flour here. A 1/2 teaspoon of salt. One teaspoon of cinnamon. And then lastly, 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Okay, so we've got all of the ingredients and we're just going to combine them. Okay, and now that we have this combined, you can see this mixture is pretty thick. Now I'm just going to grab my pan and line it with some parchment paper. Okay, so I have my 9-inch cast iron pan here, so I'm just going to take and pour the batter in here. Okay, so now I'm going to pop this in the oven at 350 for 45 to 50 minutes. It'll be a nice golden brown when it's done. So I'll show you what it looks like when it gets to that point. Okay, so it has been about 40 minutes now, and this is what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. Mine usually cracks on top, it'll be golden brown, and then when you stab it with a toothpick, it'll come out clean. So I'm going to let this cool off, and then I will slice it up and show you what it looks like in the center. So while this is going off a little bit, I'll just talk about some of the variations that you can do. So if you're going to be baking it in a muffin tin, you'll bake it for about half the time at 350, so about 20 to 25 minutes. And then if you're going to be baking it in a loaf pan, it'll be about the same baking time as a 9-inch pan, so between 40 and 50 minutes. Now, as for the flavorings, you can add in chocolate chips, walnuts, pecans. You could also subtract some of the flour and add in cocoa powder in its place, and that will give you a chocolate loaf. You could even do like chocolate loaf and then chocolate chips and have like a double chocolate chip thing going on. So there are many different options that you can customize with. I just prefer a basic banana loaf here. So that's what I have going on. And then as for storing it, you can go ahead and just slice this up and store it in a container on your counter. Or if you wanted to individually wrap these in like plastic wrap and send them in lunches, that's another great option. You can refrigerate this and it'll last a couple of more days, but it will dry out and become a little bit more stale. And you can also freeze this. That's another good option. So you can bake your loaf just like this, let it cool, wrap it, and freeze it, and then pull it out and let it thaw out and serve it just like that. Okay, so the banana bread is cooled down a little bit, so I'm going to show you how I cut this up. So because it is round, it can be a little bit weird, so I'll just kind of go through and cut off the edges. And then I'll slice these into about an inch wide of slices. And then I'm going to just take and cut that in half. Right, so I've got that all cut up. You can see it's real moist and squishy, spongy. I think that's the right word. And then as you let this sit in your container or your plastic wrap, it is actually going to create more of a tacky outer layer here when you first pull it out of the oven. It might be slightly crunchy feeling on the outside. So if you go and scrape it with a knife, you might get that sound, but once you let it sit overnight, it'll be sticky and it'll just fall right apart for you. And this is actually still just a tiny bit warm, but that doesn't really bother me too much. I'll actually just leave the lid a little bit cracked so it doesn't trap in too much of the moisture, but it really actually helps to create like a really good and moist loaf here. Sorry, I know some people hate that word and I keep saying it. All right, so we're all full and now I've got snacks for a few days. All right, everyone. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this recipe. It is really such a great one, and it really works out. As you may have noticed, I didn't measure out a lot of the ingredients very exact, and it still went really, really well here. So it always turns out it's an easy recipe to follow, and it doesn't actually take a ton of ingredients either. So it's not going to be using your precious butters or oils. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you have a great day. Bye.